Have you ever wondered what the most impactful lesson in the Bible might be? Perhaps you think you're already familiar with the teachings on faith. But the book of James, the half-brother of Jesus and son of Mary and Joseph, promises to flip your perspective upside down. Unlike many assume, this isn't just any reading. It's a true masterpiece, packed with challenges, twists, and practical inspirations that could transform your life. And the most surprising part, it unites faith and actions in a way few other biblical texts dare to. But beware, this journey isn't for the faint of heart. James doesn't sugarcoat his words, and his truths often force us to confront uncomfortable realities. Have you ever felt pressured, insecure, or unsure how to live an authentic faith amidst so many distractions? James has the answers, and they might be very different from what you expect. If you want to strengthen your faith, find practical wisdom, and live with purpose, you're in the right place. Get ready to dive into the Bible's most underrated book, written by Jesus' very own brother, and uncover lessons that can change your vision of spirituality and life. Are you ready to learn and apply? Why does the book of James seem so complicated? It's fascinating how it challenges even the most seasoned scholars. At first glance, it might appear to contradict the message of faith by grace, so emphasized elsewhere in the Bible. But is that really the case? The key lies in the nuances. What James does brilliantly is align faith and actions, showing that they aren't rivals but indispensable allies. Think of them as two sides of the same coin. One without the other simply doesn't work. James, in his straightforward style, doesn't shy away from hard truths. He's like that honest friend who tells you the truth, even when it stings. He tackles heavy themes like favoritism and hypocrisy, laying them bare without hesitation. That's why so many readers experience a wake-up call when reading his words. But this discomfort might be exactly what's needed to grasp the depth of biblical teaching on faith. Imagine putting together a complex puzzle. The finished picture is stunning, but assembling each piece requires patience and attention. That's how you should approach the book of James. Instead of seeing its messages as disconnected, try to observe how each teaching fits together. This not only deepens your understanding of the Bible, but also inspires practical application in your daily life. After all, who would want a faith that truly transforms? Did you know that the book of James was written during a time of social and spiritual turbulence? Around 47 AD, early Christians faced intense challenges. Imagine being a persecuted minority, striving to maintain faith while the surrounding society promoted opposing values. James, the brother of Jesus, saw this need and decided to write a practical guide to help Jewish Christians persevere. His message was clear. Even under pressure, true faith can and should shine. This historical context changes everything, doesn't it? James wasn't writing in a vacuum. He knew exactly who he was speaking to. His readers faced poverty, discrimination, and the temptation to abandon Christ's teachings. It's as if he were saying, I know it's tough, but here's what you need to keep going. For modern Christians, this letter serves as a powerful reminder that the Bible speaks directly to those grappling with life's daily dilemmas. A practical example, think of people today dealing with injustice or financial struggles. Just as James encouraged early Christians to maintain faith despite adversity, he still calls us to do the same. Reading his words with this backdrop helps us apply his teachings in today's world. After all, who doesn't need a little inspiration to face challenges with their head held high? Can genuine faith exist without actions? James answers with a resounding no for him. Faith without works is like a car without fuel. It may look good, but it's going nowhere. He's not saying that works earn salvation, but that true faith, when rooted in God, naturally blooms into good deeds. It's almost like planting a seed. You expect it to grow and bear fruit, right? That's how faith works. James challenges us to examine our own lives. What fruits is your faith producing? He gives practical examples, such as caring for those in need and maintaining integrity in tough situations. Think about it. When was the last time you helped someone without expecting anything in return? It doesn't have to be grand. Maybe visiting a friend in need or donating something you no longer use. Small actions can reflect the greatness of your faith. This connection between faith and works isn't about ticking off a checklist to please God. It's about allowing the inner transformation brought by faith to overflow into acts that reflect divine love. After all, as James teaches us, living faith is a force that moves the world. And when you allow yourself to be that agent of change, life takes on an even greater meaning. Have you ever thought about what it means to have wisdom? For James, it's not just about intelligence or accumulated knowledge. He describes wisdom as something divine, a gift from God for those who ask in faith. It's the ability to see life's situations from a heavenly perspective, trusting that God is in control. Imagine being in a storm and, instead of panicking, knowing exactly how to navigate to calm waters. That's what wisdom does. James emphasizes that this wisdom goes beyond human logic. It's deeply connected to dependence on God. This means abandoning pride and admitting that, on our own, we don't have all the answers. A simple example, instead of making important decisions impulsively, why not take time to pray and ask for guidance? This practice not only aligns your mind with God's will, but also brings peace and confidence. Moreover, God's wisdom doesn't just solve problems, it shapes character. As we face trials, it's what gives us the strength to persevere and grow in sanctification. It's like a plant thriving in fertile soil. The more it's nurtured, the stronger it becomes. James invites us to seek this wisdom intentionally and continuously, trusting that God, as a generous Father, will never withhold it from those who ask. Have you noticed how our choices shape the course of our lives? James explains that there are two powerful cycles. One leads to life and sanctification, while the other leads to spiritual death. He describes the first as a cycle where faith is tested but produces resilience. It's like gold refined in fire. Each trial makes it purer and stronger. This cycle transforms the believer, drawing them closer to God. On the other hand, James doesn't shy away from warning about the opposite cycle. Selfish and sinful desires, when nurtured, lead to temptation, which in turn gives birth to sin, culminating in death. It's a sequence that, although appealing at first, ends in destruction. Have you ever seen someone chase something that seemed promising but ended in regret? James calls us to identify and break these patterns before they consume us. How to apply this? Start by analyzing the cycles in your own life. What habits or thoughts have strengthened your faith? And which ones have distanced you from God? Small changes, like praying instead of giving in to anger, can break the negative cycle. Remember, it's not about being perfect, but about choosing, every day, the path that leads to life. Have you ever felt that people are treated differently depending on how much they have? James not only saw this happening, but condemned it firmly. He teaches that favoritism is incompatible with Christian faith. Imagine being in a church and seeing a wealthy person treated like royalty while a humble person is ignored. For James, this isn't just unfair, it's an affront to the gospel. His message is clear. We are all equal before God. James invites us to embrace the marginalized and reject materialism. A practical example: if you have resources, consider supporting someone in need. It can be as simple as offering a meal or helping a coworker going through difficulties. These actions reflect God's heart and transform communities. James reminds us that true justice isn't about following human rules, but showing mercy and compassion. He challenges us to evaluate how we treat the people around us. Do our actions reflect the love and equality that God teaches us? This question makes us rethink our attitudes and prepares us to understand even more of what James has to say. Have you felt the tension between living for God and being drawn to worldly values? James leaves no doubt. Friendship with the world is enmity with God. This may sound radical, but it's a call to evaluate our priorities. The world offers fame, wealth, and immediate pleasures. But James warns that these things can pull our hearts away from the true source of peace and purpose. He encourages us to resist these temptations by putting God at the center of our lives. How to do this? A simple practice is replacing habits that distance us from God with others that draw us closer to Him. Instead of spending hours consuming empty content, for example, why not dedicate time to reading the Bible or meditating on passages like the Book of James? Small changes create a massive difference. James also emphasizes that this fight isn't solitary. God gives us grace to resist and strength to overcome. He calls us to humility because it's in this posture that we find the power to triumph over temptations. As we distance ourselves from the world and draw closer to God, we begin to experience the true freedom He offers. And as we'll see, this freedom is fully lived in the faith community. Why does James place so much emphasis on prayer and community? He knew no one walks alone in faith. Prayer is more than asking for things. It's opening your heart to God, seeking guidance, and finding comfort in His presence. James encourages us to pray in all situations, in pain, joy, and doubt. It's like a continuous dialogue that strengthens our connection with the Creator. He also speaks of the power of communal prayer. Imagine a group of people united, praying for one another, sharing their burdens and celebrations. This not only renews individual faith, but also strengthens community bonds. A practical example: joining small groups or creating prayer moments with friends and family. These gatherings become spaces where miracles happen and hearts are restored. James challenges us to confess our failures and seek help in the church, not as a place of judgment, but as a house of healing. When we share our struggles, we find support and grow in unity. This practice not only brings us closer to God, but also to each other, creating a community that reflects divine love. And this cycle of support prepares us to face bigger challenges with renewed faith. Now that you've delved into the profound teachings of the Book of James, what will you do with this knowledge? James didn't write just to be read, but to be lived. Does your faith reflect the actions he emphasizes so strongly? Are you ready to apply this wisdom daily, seeking justice, resisting temptations, and strengthening your spiritual walk? These questions aren't just reflections. They're a call to transformation. You have the power to break cycles of sin and build a faith that inspires and transforms. Start with small actions. Pray more often, help someone in need, or dedicate time to studying the Bible. Try confessing your challenges to a friend or within your faith community. You'll see how these practices can renew your connection with God and others, making your faith more alive than ever. And if this content resonated with you, why not keep learning? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss an update. After all, the book of James is just the beginning of a journey that can change your life. And remember, living by faith is a continuous process. So why not start now?